Okay, good morning. It's great to see so many people on the call. I'm sure most people are pretty aware on security at the moment, especially with those four little that acronym GDPR and that. So the reason we have decided to do this here security webinar is feedback from partners recently. This webinar is part of two webinars. We're going to run a second one with some of the more advanced features in a month's time as well. But we're going to touch on some of the basic things around passwords, around BitLocker, and some of the new enhancements as well. Because one thing, one thing I would say straight out here is every week we would see calls coming into the support desk with a compromise or of a breach in that. Okay, and there is some best practices that we can do here. Okay, so who am I? My name is Michael Coyle. I work as a partner technical enablement specialist here in Micro Warehouse. Okay, so I've been here about a year in that as well. So my main role is in the Azure side and Office 365, but I deal with a lot of, like, say, technical engagements with partners. So it can be around, best practices in moving to the cloud and that as well. So a lot of the time I would be looking on the Azure side, pricing up solutions, then helping partners deploy as well, but I would feel a lot of questions on Office 365 as well. Just one thing I would say as well here is if there is any questions, can you use the questions tab down in the right hand side? So even during the presentation, just put in your any questions there, and at the very end we'll do a Q&A. The one thing I'd say about today as well is it is an hour. There's a lot to be covered in that as well. I have a few demos in that as well. I'm going to say straight up here, it's live demos, so you know yourself with live demos. There's no recordings in that as well. Okay, so agenda, just going through some of the agenda, okay? Starting off with passwords. Look, this is nothing new in that, okay? Second part here is Office 365 multi-factor authentication, okay? What it is, how to set it up, and that there, the benefits of it, okay? Third, BitLocker. This one, BitLocker surprised me on. I'd probably just say a little bit of education as well. We've had some calls in regarding can you recommend an encryption solution and that as well. So I think the key message here as well is Windows 7 Enterprise or the Ultimate Edition that there came with BitLocker. Windows 10 Pro now comes with BitLocker. Okay, so there's no reason, not to have it on. Look, I know some partners will have a third party tool in that as well. But look, if you don't, just set it up. I'm going to show you a few things around it as well. Okay. Fourth on the agenda here is, and we're going to touch on one or two other things as well. So Microsoft Secure Score. This used to be called Office 365 Secure Score. They've now developed it into Windows as well. And another really interesting part here is Office 365 Attack Simulator. And this is a really interesting one. And I really see this as a great consultancy play. We would love, partners to sell the the license that comes with that there, Office 365 Threat Intelligence. But I'll show you some things you can do on that as well, as well. 5, then Windows 10. Just going through certain things on Windows 10. Okay, we've probably, again, I don't know how many people know about Windows Hello, but you've also got Device Guard, Credential Guard, BitLocker in that as well. Some of the basic features in that as well. But just starting off here, I just want one of the most common questions we get asked a lot is, you know, I don't really want to move to the cloud. My environment is, my data is much safer on premise than it is in the cloud and that there. And this is just a slide I just wanted to show on a recent data center tour we did here. We did presented this here slide and that there, and just gives you an idea on what's involved on the security side. So can't really say where it is, but I think most people will know where it is and that. So just give a background. If you're using Office 365, when you set up a tenant and you select Ireland, the data goes into the Dublin data center and then replicates across to Amsterdam. So that's where you get your 3.9 SLA in that as well. Azure is different, depending on the service, but you can select the data center. Okay, so looking at the front, the perimeter, you've got, one defined access point, perimeter fencing, usual thing for a large data center in that as well. Okay, it's interesting from the actual data center itself. There is very few people working there. Okay, they keep saying, there's only about 5 or 6 Microsoft full-time employees. Then there's security and that as well. But what I found really interesting was as well is, so you've got a Microsoft operational center, a MOC in that there, where it looks after, the servers from a remote location. That if somebody works physically in the data center, they cannot work in the Microsoft Operations Center. Okay, so again, just the built-in from a security side on it as well. So access control, anybody that attends. So when we went out recently in that there, everybody had to sign an NDA in that as well. There was background checks done as well. So the building itself, no signage. You'll actually not really know the building in that as well. Usual thing, two-factor authentication, 24/7 security operations, video coverage. What you would expect in that as well. So. But what I really find when you look at the server side of it as well, so the technician, say for example, a red light goes on a hard drive and they have to go out and replace the hard drive. Okay, now depending on the location and the severity of the data, sometimes there's high business impact data in that as well. The technician is given a certain amount of time to do this. Okay, and the one thing that was made very clear is they do not know whose data is in each server, and that when they're changing, like say a hard drive, they're given a certain amount of time. And the key thing is as well, there's always 2 or 3 cameras on that person, and there's no loitering as well. Okay, there's always, like say, they're given the minimal amount of access to make a change in that as well. So I think this is a good slide sometimes if you're ever coming into the challenge on asking somebody, right, no, my data is more secure on premise than that there. I think if you show something like this here, just gives an idea in that there. You've got, like say, going through each part of the building in that there. Each kind of, like say, room is controlled. When you enter one, access is restricted to where you've come from last and that as well. So, and there's things as well like no tailgate and stuff like that there. But it was just interesting from our perspective and that they're going through it and that as well. Okay, so just starting off with passwords. Okay, passwords best practices. I can guarantee you, if I ask anybody on the call now at the moment, everybody will have a different different best practice in that there. Just thought I'd show you some screenshots. Anybody who's worked in IT, especially in a technical side, how many times have they seen a password on the screen and that as well? Now, and interesting, if you look at the slide there, the recent Hawaii, well, I'm not going to say, well, mess up the missile launch not there, or the test not there. When they went back in, you can see in the background somebody's password not there. So just incredible. I can understand, but this person is meant to be head of security there as well. But an interesting one from my perspective on this here as well is I remember working in, I'm not going to say where it was in that there, but I remember somebody asking for a second monitor, and they were fairly senior person in that, so we, went up, got it set up on that there, and I was looking at, they had 2 monitors, and I was kind of going, okay, right, so we're going to have to connect this here up and that as well. And the person said, no, don't worry about power in that as well. 3 or 4 days later, I landed up in that, and they were using it for sticky notes and that there. Now, maybe not passwords, but just I think if you've worked in IT long enough, nothing will surprise you in that as well. Okay, so password best practices. Okay, the other thing I'd say as well is I'll send you a document that Microsoft prepared about 2 years ago that goes through certain things in that. Okay, it's a good document. I'm not going to show it now here, but look, it's just something that goes through, gives you 8 tips in that there, and then goes through other things as well. So generally, if we look at, say, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2003 kind of more or less said, change them frequently. Make sure they include a combination of capital letters, numbers, and special characters. Okay. Now, the one thing I would say on this here is, and this is generally, good practice, most of the time it's better to have more characters in a password. Okay, so I'm not saying they should have 16 or something like that there, because generally if it's 16, people will use, like, say, an 8-letter password twice, not there, and that just defeats the purpose, not there. Okay, but it's generally better to have more characters than less in that as well. Now, there is a question around changing them frequently, like, is it once every 90 days, once every 180 days, and that there? That's up to you to decide in that as well. But the one thing I would say on this here, and it'll become very clear anyway, uh, uh, that it is key that you have a policy in place, not there. But also as well here is that passwords will become a thing of the past. I've got a video here I'll show as well on it and that as well. We have a question there, and I'll come to that question just a bit later in that as well. So okay, so Windows Hello, and the question is around Windows Hello, and yes, you do need certain hardware to use Windows Hello and that there, like, so one Windows Hello is a feature within Windows 10 and that as well. So it supports biometric authentication, so using your face, iris, or fingerprint to unlock your device. Look, one thing I would say here is Windows devices open up in less than 2 seconds. So it's much quicker than a password, but it's much more secure in that as well. So as you're aware, like, passwords are the most unsecure in that as well. But look, I would say yes, you do need, there is certain hardware in that as well that is required for that as well. One thing from before, like fingerprint login, has been around for a good while in that as well. The other thing as well is I generally don't know my passwords. Straight away here, I don't, like, when I sign up to somewhere new and that there, I use something called LastPass myself and that. Okay, so I've got one generic password that it's a password management tool in that there. It's a plugin to browsers. I can have it on my phone and that as well. There's a free version, there's a paid version as well. Now again, where's the weakness in this here? I have one main password, and then all my passwords are in there. It automatically generates passwords for me when I log in and that as well. Like, so, but what's really interesting on this here, like, LastPass supports, as far as I know, from an OS side of it, from a browser side, it does support most browsers and operating systems in that as well. Like, so, but here's a really interesting side here in that as well. Okay. So Microsoft have aligned themselves with FIDO and that they're so Fast Identity Online. So it's a working group, really, it's an alliance of 250 organizations in that there. And the mission really is to replace passwords in that as well. Okay. It's a really interesting area in that as well, because Microsoft have done a lot in that area in that as well. Like, so I'm just going to show you a video on this here. Now, again, this is pretty new in that as well, like, so, but I just want to touch on this here before going to go into things in a little bit more detail on that. Okay, so where do I have this here? Boom, 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 boom. Okay, now I do have a lot of windows open here, so bear with me. Okay, just want to show you this here video. Okay, so that's really interesting there. Now, one thing I would say on this here is that it is in preview and that. Okay, so there is sorry, there is I'll send links on this here as well, like, but it's just interesting where things are going, because one of the things around is an employee starts within a company, they get a USB key and they've got their fingerprint, obviously when they're inducted, their fingerprint is taken, but the USB is got a fingerprint reader in that there, so they can read their fingerprint in that as well. What was really interesting, what they were saying about this was where you've got instance where, like in a hospital, where people log into multiple computers at different stages, and that there, all they need is their USB, plug it in, and that there, swipe their finger, and then they log into the device and that. Okay, but it's just interesting where things are going. But let's be very clear on this here. Passwords are a thing of the past. Okay, so I'd say give a couple of years in that there, and it's not something we're going to be talking about in too much detail. Okay, it'll still be around for certain applications that there, but just going back on a few things here. I take for example now a sample customer. I have 20 users, customer in that. Okay, they want to move to Office 365. Okay, how do I set them up? Okay, am I using AD Connect? Okay, you definitely should be using AD Connect. Okay, so what is AD Connect? AD Connect is a Microsoft application, doesn't cost anything, can sit on an existing domain controller in that there. What it allows is the on-premise Active Directory, it synchronizes the users up onto the cloud in that there. So when the user signs in with their on-prem password in that there, it's the same password for the cloud. Okay, very, very straightforward in that there. And really, it surprised me again that a lot of people were not aware of this here, because this tool is developed. It used to be called DirSync, then it was Active Directory synchronization, but now it's AD Connect and that there. And look, it's straightforward to set up at the very start. It's a little bit harder to set up after the fact, because you have to hard match the IDs and that as well. Okay, but a key aspect on this here is, if speak to anybody, one of the key things is around password management and that there. My help desk gets calls on passwords and that there, so what's the best way around this here? Set up AD Connect. Okay, the good thing on this here is, say for example the AD Connect goes down in that there, there's no limitation to services. You can still access your cloud services, your on-prem and that there. The only difference is, if you change your password on-prem, it mightn't synchronize up onto the cloud in that there. There's another feature called ADFS, Active Directory Federation Services. That is single sign-on. AD Connect is same sign-on, same password you use for your on-premise as into the cloud. But key part on this here is something called Azure Active Directory Self-Service Password Reset. Okay, so we talked on there the on-premise side of it. Okay, the on-premise, I synchronize my users up onto the cloud. I change my password at my workstation side of it. But what happens if I want to change my password in the cloud and reset the password in that? Okay, you can only do this here if you've got an Active Directory Premium P1 license. Okay, now I want to be very clear on this here. Office 365 is a user license, so every user needs to have a license. This is one of the exceptions. There's a few other exceptions in that as well, but this is one of the exceptions here. All you need to do as a partner is purchase one AD Premium license and set up the AD self-service password reset tool. Okay, what that does then is, the end user does not need to ring you for support, and that they can reset the password themselves, fill in some details in that there, and then off they go on that as well. But it is something that really should be done in that there, so and it's really simple to set up in that there. And again, just want to reiterate, one AD Premium license. That document down there goes through it in that there. You don't have to have an AD Premium license for each user in that as well. But it's just best practices and that as well. And you're managing, the password policy in that as well. So there's a few little things just to work out, but there's a really good document on it as well. Okay, so that's going through, say, passwords. Not going into too much detail in that there. Look, people have their own stories on passwords and that there. If you I remember in college doing a now many years ago, but doing just basically we came back in a certain date in September and asked people, when did you come back? What's your like males? What's your favorite football team? What kind of car do you have? TV program, stuff like that there. And we had 5 or 6 questions. Out of a class of 20, we guessed 4 passwords without doing too much in there. One of them was password 123. Ask people. I guarantee you, if you did within a company and that there, got everybody change their passwords on the 15th of December, how many people would have Xmas, 2019 or whatever it is in that there? We all know stories in that there, but again, just shows you how unsecure passwords are. Okay, so getting to the next part here, multi-factor authentication in Office 365. Okay, now I did say I am not going to use GDPR. This is not a GDPR. To me, GDPR is putting policies in place. You need to implement multi-factor authentication. To me, it's just it's just it's like having Exchange now in the cloud and that there with Office 365. It just makes sense. Okay, there's a little bit of overhead to be done in that there. I wouldn't advise rolling it out to, if you've got a company that's 100 users, first of all implement it to the admin users and that there, and then pilot test it into maybe say 10 users and that there, and get them to do it in that there, because there might be, it might cause an issue with another application. So you just need to make sure that it works correctly in that as well. There is, send an email template out. Get somebody within the company. We are implementing Office multi-factor authentication. Here's the steps, not there, and the end user can sign up themselves, not there. Okay. So what is multi-factor authentication? It's a method of authentication that requires the user to use more than one verification method and adds a security level for sign-ins and transactions. Okay, so that's with Office 365. Now we're only talking Office 365. This is not talking about Azure multi-factor authentication, where you can have other applications. You can have a MFA for other. I am only looking at Office 365 on this side of it. It comes, and I just be very clear, it is free with every plan in Office 365. Straight away, you're not paying anything. It's consultancy from your side. Okay. So the second form of authentication can be a phone. Get a phone call from Microsoft, or get a text message. You can use your Office phone as well. Excuse me. Now, the one I would use here is the mobile app. Download a mobile app, so the Authenticator app, and you can, when you put in your password, and then your second option then is, you just click on, sign in. It gives you a pop-up on that there and allows you to sign in. You can also enter a 6-digit code from the app as well, so it's your choice not there. But I just want to demo this here and that as well. Now I will say this is a demo, but I just want to show you this here in action and that. Okay, so now just let me have a look here, because I do have a number of windows open here. Okay, so I'm going to log in here. So this is my username. Okay, password. So and click sign in. Now, typical. I changed the password here, and yeah. Okay, so first thing here, now obviously you can't see this here on my phone. Now I've got an Android phone, can be iPhone, even if you have a Windows phone, can be a Windows phone. And I'm getting a message, approve sign in, gives my name, deny or approve. I click approve. Now again, I could be, like, say for example, getting a phone call from Microsoft. I could be getting a text message and that as well. Just want to show you up here. If I go up onto here, Office 365, and now let me security and privacy. Okay, and just want to check here. Right, okay. Now it is hidden a little bit here in that as well. Okay. So if I go into here, okay. So this is what you fill in here. Okay. So at the moment, my preferred method of logging in here is notify me through the app. Okay, now these are the other options you can do. You can fill it in that there. But if I want to change that, I can change that. If I change that, I'll get a message to my phone to explain this here. But that's just basically how it's changed in that as well. The other thing I'd say as well here is, just let me close this here. Now, one of the overheads on this here is when you set up multi-factor authentication, obviously with Outlook, it can't create a second form of authentication. So what it does is creates an app password. If you need to create an app password, you know, you go in here, or when you're signing up at the very start, it'll create an app password. So when you're connecting into Outlook, instead of that password you had before, you'll enter in an app password. So that is a bit of an overhead in that there. But look, it's a one time operation that as well. And if you need to create new app passwords, you do it from there as well. Okay, but let's go back into the admin portal here. So I'm the admin user here. Okay, so here are my users, active users. Okay, so I've got a list of, now there's a trial tenant, it's got Office 365 E5, okay, so it's got, one of the best plans in that there, okay, but it's just a trial that I set up in that, okay. Now, where do I implement multi-factor authentication? Up here at more, go into, now directory sync, that's AD Connect and that there, when you're setting up AD Connect and that there goes through there. Set up multi-factor authentication. Right, so I can see from here the list of users that I have here, okay? So these are the people in it. Now I can see straight away that the first two people are enrolled, okay? So sorry, they've been enrolled and they've actually signed up because it's saying enforced, okay? So there's three statuses you normally get: disabled, enrolled means that the admin has set them up, but they haven't gone through the process and that as well. So just let's look at, like, say, Paul Grimes. I'm going to enable Paul Grimes, okay? Enable multi-factor authentication, and pretty straightforward. So now you can see, so it's enabled. Sorry, I might have said enrolled. Enabled, okay? So Paul is enabled. So what does Paul see, okay? So let's go into, let's go into another browser here. Let me just 1 second here. In the interest of my slow typing. Okay. Look, I'll type. And okay, so P Grimes at next, and put in my really secure password. Great. Right, okay. So this is what they see. So you have set them up for multi-factor authentication. Now, best practice is you send an email out to the user a couple of days in advance of it, and it goes through these steps and that as well. You really want them to do this themselves. Put something down at the very bottom. If you need assistance, contact the help desk and that there. But they really should be able to do this here. Now, the other question I would say as well sometimes is how many people are actually using. What surprised me is not a lot of people use the actual portal. It just tells what they're using in Office 365. So set it up now, okay? So I'm setting up multi-factor authentication. Now, we've seen this before. So how should we contact you? Authenticate through the phone, Office phone, or mobile app, okay? Now, just for this here, I'm going to do mobile app, okay? And I'm going to go, right, so you've got two options here: receive notification for verification or use verification code, okay? So I'm going to click this here, use verification code. Don't know why, but anyway, I prefer the other, use notification, that you just get a pop-up, okay? Now, this is the part here that might take just a little bit of time in that there, because I have a crappy phone. Well, the camera isn't very good in that there, okay? So what I would do here now is I go into the Authenticator app in that there, okay? And I go add account. and I'm going to select a work account in that there. Now, what I would do here is put my phone over. It would read the actual QR code in that there, okay? But it's not going to read it because the camera isn't very good in that there. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to manually enter this here. So code 717964020, and then the URL CO1 PF PAD 17. I'm not going to spend too much time on this here because it's pretty straightforward, not there. But just wanted to show you phone factor. Okay. I wish they would make the URL a bit smaller, but look, it is what it is. And 090603 7. Now, hopefully the end user has a better phone than I have in that there, so, but, so what I've clicked on here and click next. Now, knowing my luck, this will probably fail, but anyway, checking verification. Now, if I haven't put in that there correctly, it'll come up with an error message in that there. But okay, great. You can hear the surprise in my voice in that there, but it's worked in that there, so. But okay, so that's it set up there. Okay. Next thing I do here is click next, and so it's asking me now to enter this code 766196. Click verify. And that's set up. Now, last part here is just a bit of housekeeping in that there that they need to pick in. This is all documented as well, so what you're trying to do really here is, get the end user to do this themselves. It's self-service in that there. So, click next. And now this is the part, the app password, okay? So what the end user would do here is copy that app password, go into Outlook and open up Outlook, and then it would ask for this here. Now, this is one of the areas where I would say can be a little bit tricky. We have had issues sometimes depending on the version of Office and that there as well, so, but generally with the latest versions, there's no issues with it. But look, that's it set up here now as well. Now, just from one side here, I just want to go back onto this here. I just want to see, it'd be interesting now, will it actually read this now as enforced? How quickly, there might be a delay. Okay, just wait for this here to come up on that there. Yeah, so you can see straight away now, Paul Grimes is enforced, so it's set up on that. And again, as I said, you can turn this off if you want to, if for some reason that as well. I would recommend, it all depends on the size of the company. Like I was speaking to somebody yesterday who they look, he basically had to spend a week over one of his clients and that there. They had a ransomware attack and that there. So he was setting them up. He was moving them into the cloud. They had Office Business, so they're using the Office apps and that there. But I was just saying, look, when you're there now, set up multi-factor authentication. It's I don't like using the term no-brainer, but it's just, look, I think it's a tick list in that there. If the customer does not want this here, fair enough on that. Okay, so that's multi-factor authentication. It's Office 365, and again, as you said, that's the demo there. Pretty straightforward to set up on that there. You as a partner, like, I'm not gonna ask people, but like, you really should be using it yourself as well, So, and look, you might get a little bit of pain at the very start. People kind of go in like, this is taking too much time in that there. But I can guarantee you, I have a first-hand experience from when working out with a partner in that there and getting a call from a customer. Now, they had a breach. They didn't lose anything, specifically because the person picked up on the way the email was finished. The email was wrote very well. There was no grammar mistakes, but it was just at the very end the way they signed off that there, and that made them think in that there. And if they had put that money into that account that there, it would have been a six figure figure in that there. Like I couldn't understand when I spoke to the customer. I said, like, would you not verify over the phone and that thing? And the person said to me, look, we get lots of these requests, just the nature of the business we're in and that, like, so okay. So touched on there. So that's multi-factor authentication. So BitLocker, just want to highlight this here. Most people will have heard of BitLocker. BitLocker Drive Encryption is a data protection feature that integrates with the operating system and addresses threats of data theft, exposure from lost, stolen, or inappropriately decommissioned computers. Not there. So a simple example on this here is, you lose your computer in that there, okay? What have you got? You've got a password to log into it. What if somebody takes the hard drive out and slaves the hard drive? They've access to the information. If you've got BitLocker set up out there, they will not have access. Now, there is certain things that you do need. I'm going to say this here. It requires a TPM, Trusted Platform Module, okay? Technically it doesn't. You can use a USB in that there, but every time you log in, you need to use the USB. People are going to lose the USB. So, TPM now for a business laptop is part and parcel. It has to be 1.2 or later, preferably 2.0 in that there, so the setup on BitLocker is very, very straightforward. Like before, when you set it up in that there, the end user, sometimes you had to go into the BIOS to turn on the TPM. A lot of that is set up now automatically in that as well. So it's pretty straightforward in that as well. But the key thing on this here is, are your end users on Windows 10 Professional or higher? Have they got a TPM on their laptop? Set it up, okay? Key thing is the recovery password. So for example, if when you reboot the computer, it asks for the recovery password. Say there's been a change on the BIOS or something like that there. Make sure that the recovery password is saved somewhere safe in that there, okay? Just coming out of this here, I just wanted to show you this here. So go down here, BitLocker, manage BitLocker, and I have BitLocker turned on. Okay, now I can suspend it if I want to, back up the recovery key. Please do not back up the recovery key to the hard drive. Has been done. Ideally in a situation, you want to automate this as much as possible. There is third-party tools out there that can do this as well. I know of a few in that there as well. But you can use a Microsoft MBAM server if you want to. There's going to be integration with Azure Active Directory domain services. That's basically, your domain is handled in the cloud and that there. It's taken away from a domain controller. But look, one thing I would say to you on this as well is, it can be stored in Azure Active Directory as well. Let me just show you something here now. Let me hope I'm in the right place. And I'm not. Just 1 second, bear with me here, because I definitely thought I had this opened somewhere. So that is that. And I just want to show something here. Here it is. Sorry. So I've logged into Azure. Okay, so this is my wife's company. She works in recruitment and that there. So there's no servers, small company in that there. I use Azure Active Directory, and these are the listed devices that are on the network and that. Okay, now when I go into this one here, so when I set up the computer at the very start, so it's not joining a local domain and that there, it's joining the Azure Active Directory domain and that there. So if I go into this here, I've set up BitLocker, and there's my recovery key here. Okay, there's a recovery key there. So set up. Now, one thing I would say is make sure Most people will be domain joined, okay? They're not going to be Azure domain joined. There is still that conversation around, can I move away from a domain controller? Yes, you can. Are you using group policy? Well, no, not really. You can't. You can't if you're using group policy. Intune is the product. We're not going to touch on Intune today, and that there. Intune is the solution now for a lot of people where they're trying to get away from the on-premise domain controller, and that they're moving as much as possible to the cloud, and that there. But look, use your policy. Make sure that the recovery key is saved somewhere safe in that as well. That is the key thing with BitLocker. So if something goes wrong, the recovery key. I would just recommend if they're using OneDrive for Business, create a folder in their OneDrive for Business and back it up there, and maybe keep a secondary one somewhere else safe in that as well. Okay. So that is BitLocker. I'm not spending too much time on this here. It's part of Windows 10 Professional. Next question asked in that there, I'm on Windows 7. How do I get to Windows 10? I don't want to pay the E3 pricing in that there as well. Well, another workaround you can do is buy the Windows 10 E3 license through CSP. It's a monthly cost. So you're upgrading to that, okay? You upgrade, then once you're up and running, turn off the license and you get downloaded to Windows 10 Professional. So you're going from 7 to Windows 10 E3 through CSP, and then you downgrade to Windows 10 Professional. It's just an option. So it's something to look at in that as well. Because you're trying to get, like, the key thing from partner side now is I need to get everybody to Windows 10. Okay, is there a compatibility? Is there an application that will cause me a problem in that there? If so, and that there, I have to stay on Windows 7. Sometimes it's a software vendor in that there, and you know sometimes if they're not going to move with the times, you really need to look at somebody else in that as well. So, but that is an option. Just to explain it again, you buy through CSP, Windows 10 E3 license, speak to Nicole Finn in here in Microware, speak to Angela, whoever your account manager, they'll go through the process with you in that as well. Okay, don't want to spend too much time on Office 365 threat intelligence. I just want to show something on this here. So Office 365 threat intelligence is part of the E5 SKU. Being straight up on here, the E5 SKU is expensive. The E3 SKU comes in at something like 1920 or something like that, and that this one here is much more expensive. But if you're going to use Power BI, if you're going to use phone system, if you're going to use Office 365, if you're going to use some of the features from it, then it becomes cost effective. Okay, so with Office 365 threat intelligence, gives you insights, from a security compliance side on it, and that there. It monitors, gathers data on multiple sources such as activity, authentication, compromised PCs, security incidents. It gives you a holistic view on what's happening within the network, and that there is a certain person being targeted, and that as well. So also gives you information on, like, say, malware. It just gives you a holistic view of your users and computers in that as well. So you can buy it per user. It's up to you in that as well. But what I want to talk on this here is, I'm not sure if a lot of people have seen this here. It is something called Office 365 Attack Simulator. So how many partners out there would actually provide consultancy regarding best practices? Okay, do you go into your customer sometimes and say, look, we'll do an hour, 2 hour session or half a day session with your team, and that there, straight away, this is not a free service. This, if they need to value this here as well, But what happens if you could simulate a phishing attack? Okay, so somebody gets an email. There's a link. They click on the link, and that there, and then they give in all their details. No, that's never going to happen in our company. In that there, definitely not. No, we're too too careful in that there. Could I do a password spray attack? Could I do a brute force password attack in it there? So password spray attack, brute force, similar but different in that there. So could I download, like, say, 100 of the most common passwords, put them into a file, and then go and see if anybody's using this here as well. So again, this is a really good feature, Office 365 Attack Simulator in that. Okay, I would actually implement it yourselves internally. Microsoft did it themselves. had interesting results. So people have opened it up on that there as well, so. But let's look at this here. So what you would do here is you can buy threat intelligence as an add-on, or it comes with E5 and that as well, so. Or can you add the E5 trial to your existing tenant and then do this here? But this to me is a consultancy play in that there. Like, if you get the go ahead from the managing director and say, look, we want to do a phishing attack in that there, and next week we're going to go in and bring, say, 10 users into a room, go through best practices about passwords, about emails. If you're not sure, don't, yourself in that there. But then at the very end, if you say, well, just to be aware, there was a phishing attack on the company last week in that there. Out of the 10 of you, 7 you clicked on the link in that there. I can guarantee you that will have more relevance than somebody presenting something and then walk away, because then it's accountability. People are looking around kind of going, geez, did I open it? Who actually opened it and that as well. Let's look at a demo of this here, okay? So just going into here, just 1 second here. And okay, so no, not this here. I should have opened up different browsers for different. Right, so how I get to this here is I'm just going to close this. So I'm logged in as an administrator. I'm going to go to admin. Okay, so I go into admin centers, security and compliance, and threat management. Now, one thing I would say to you on this here, so it's like a fire drill. Yeah, definitely. This is a fire drill. You're not going to affect the end user. Sorry, I should have said that there straight out as well. This is only a simulated attack. Okay, so just be very, very clear on that. Okay, so it's only a simulated attack on this here, but it's just something to be very, very aware of in that there, there's going to be no infected computers in that as well, so if I go into attack simulator, okay, now this is one I have run one myself, but I just want to go through the format of it. Okay, so launch attack. So you can set up your own one. If you've got an email that you want to do, there is templates. I like the payroll one, the prize giveaway one. Not sure. Click next. Target audience. Who am I going to send this here to? So I'm going to send it to Paul. I'm going to send it to Sean. I'm going to send it to Sally. Right. Doesn't make a difference. Okay. So these are the people I'm going to target. Not there. Click next. Not there. Okay. So the phishing login server, I have different options on here. There's a number of different ones on here, and that, so I can also then, make it link into something I have myself and that as well, so I can make this redirect, into a page we have, and you can see on the page, you know, can't believe you've fallen for this here, or, whatever you want to do in that there. Okay, so key thing on this here to me would be, make it come from, like, say, who's payroll, so I'm going to go my payroll at, if I can only spell payroll, it'd be great. So there, and then I'm going to go coilcon.com. Now there, so it looks, pretty genuine. That there, subject, click next. This is what I really like here. Okay, so that's the email there. But okay, this looks a bit, dear, right? If I see something with dear, it's kind of like Dear John. Okay, so where is dear on this here? Down here, I'm going to change that to hi. And at the very bottom, thank you. And I'm going to go, probably should just, okay, thank you. And then type Michael Coyle. Right, click across. then go back into the email and you see this. So it looks a little bit better than that as well. Click next and are you sure you want to proceed with this phishing attack? Again, it is simulated in that as well. So that email has gone out, okay? Now, I've already done this here and that as well. You can see, you've seen what the email will look like. I'll log in and show you from an end user perspective and that there. So, but if I view a report on something I've done here and that, like, so compromised users, I can see that S Daily clicked on the link at this here time. So you can see straight away that somebody has actually opened it, okay? Now, successful attempts is, if you click on the link and go through and fill in your details, not there, like, but that person there has opened the link in that there, like, so let me just check to see if I look, let's just try this here. Portal, there's a problem when you're trying to be so many different users, not there. I try to give names I would remember as well. Yeah, of course. Come out, sign out, and let's try portal.office.com and S. Gallagher at coilcon.onmicrosoft.com. I don't think I've set multi-factor authentication. I'm really sure I haven't. Right. Okay. Yeah. And a really secure password. Right. Sign in. Great. Don't know why I didn't use the other person that I. Okay, let's go back here. Just 1 second here. Sorry, 1 second. And portal, and you can see passwords are something that I really need to get rid of as soon as possible. Next, and I don't know if I included this person. Anyway, look, I just wanted to show you what the email looks like. Okay, so Outlook, and right, so this was the email. Now I sent this last night, so that new one I sent. So that's what the email looks like. Okay, open your details. Right, hi Sarah Diller, thank you, and that there. Update this here. Now, depending on what you have security wise and that as well, like so they might get through on this here, okay? But that'll say straight away that I've clicked on the link and then I want to visit this unsafe site. And now, look what's happening here. I'm going to put in my details, but look at the portal up here, portal.payroll tooling. So it's not the Microsoft website. So you can see how somebody, can be fooled into using this here as well. Like, now obviously they mightn't get that secondary link there where, it's a scam, depending on what you have security wise and that they're built in that as well. Like, so it might go straight to here and that, like, so they've clicked on it once they put in that details. But again, just wanted to show you how simple it was. Now you can change this around as well. Like, like you can do something like, for example, there's an event on in the company and that there, it's publicized through the website. So you're acting as a hacker or whatever it is not there, and just see how many people. I just think education is the key. I do think you need to go in, speak to your clients. I guarantee you, if you say to them, like, not everybody's going to pick it up on that there, but it's just best practices. Is that the salesperson within the company? Is it a techie in that there? Do you have a good techie who is comfortable speaking in front of people? It all depends, but I do think this here is a really good, and there's no, if you use a trial of this here, like I ideally I'd love you to use threat intelligence, not there. But again, you know, this is a consultancy play to me in that there. And again, there's other features in there as well. You can do a password hack, password spray attack or brute force attack as well. Now, the one thing I would say to you is if you do set up a trial and you don't see the attack simulator, click on this link below and it'll force it in that as well. So okay, so just getting back to this here. Look, I know I kind of figured we might be kind of going over a little bit of time in that as well, because there was a lot in this here. So that's Attack Simulator, pretty new. Now, Microsoft Secure Score used to be called Office 365 Secure Score. This appears in your security and compliance. It'll give you a baseline on what your score is in that, so really good tool. They've added Windows in here now as well, key thing on this here is, am I implementing certain levels of security in that? Okay, am I turning on multi-factor authentication? It'll give you points for turning on certain things in that as well. But everybody gets this here as part of your plan, and that there, it'll give you a baseline on what your score is compared to other companies of your size and that as well. But it's great if you've got an engineer that goes on site once a month or once a week and that they have to generate a report. Use this here. Graphics are good in that there, but it also shows that you are monitoring logs and that there you are implementing the latest security features and that as well. So it's called Microsoft Secure Score. It used to be called Office 365 Secure Score, but it now incorporates Windows and Office and that there. The URL down the bottom there is how you click into it. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail in that there because we are tight on time in that. Okay. Another thing as well here is message encryption. I want to be able to encrypt an email and send it out to an end user in that. Okay, so for example, I've got this sensitive proposal I need to send out to a supplier, and that I only want them to open it up. I do not want them to forward it on. So you use message encryption. Now, to set this up, it does take PowerShell. The later version of Office makes this a lot easier. You're not trying to include an add-on. It's in there. You just go up and you put in confidential. It's this email do not forward, internal use only, depending on what you want to use it for. Okay, now this is message encryption and that as well. It can be sent out to an Outlook account, a Gmail account, an Office 365, whatever it is, and that as well. And there goes through the steps on what happens not there. Now, if you've got E3, message encryption is included. If not, you can buy it as an add-in, or it comes with Azure Information Protection. Now, today's webinar, I have not touched on certain features like, say, for example, enterprise mobility and security. The next webinar we're going to go up, I would call this here, like, say, a level 100 to 200 on security. The next one we're going to go into things like, say, for example, Intune, go into AD Premium in more detail, cloud app security and that as well. What we're talking at the moment is, you have a firewall in place, you're using BitLocker, you're using multi-factor authentication. But what happens if I had a document and I could encrypt the actual document as well? So for example, if the document ever gets out and that there, only the person that's intended to have access to it and that can access it, not there. So it doesn't matter. Like, it takes away, this perimeter security. I'm applying rules to all documents if they're on premise or if they're in the cloud. So that's Azure Information Protection. It includes message encryptions, Azure Rights Management as well. But we'll go into that in the next webinar and that as well. So Windows 10 security, I just wanted to show the different versions of Windows 10 Pro. So key thing to me here is Windows 10 Pro comes with BitLocker, also BitLocker to go. If I want to encrypt a USB drive or a secondary drive, I can use BitLocker to go on that as well. If I need direct access, if I need, say, device guard or credential guards in that there, I'm looking at E3 or E5 in that there, okay? So the two key things here, device guard gives the organization's ability to lock down devices in a way that provides advanced malware protection against new and unknown malware variants, okay? Credential guard uses virtualization-based security to isolate secrets so that only privileged system software can access them, okay? I'll send on more details on that. Generally, most people are happy enough with Pro. Ideally, we would love to see more people using E3 or E5 and that there, but because BitLocker is included in Windows 10 Pro, that's so it's more than enough for most people on that. The other thing I'd say as well here is this deck will go out to everybody after it. So I'm also including password best practice as well. This here is really, really good. Okay. So Microsoft security and compliance. Okay. So get away from some of the terms they're using, like hero technologies. I probably should have edited that, but it's Microsoft marketing. But what I like about this here is somebody asked you about Windows Hello. I've got technical presentation, I've got technical articles, and I've got a demo on it as well. Okay. Other things, Azure Information Protection, which you touch on. We will go into this in more detail. What about DLP, data loss protection? How do I apply policies in that as well? So this will go out as well. Now, it says Office 365 Secure Score. That's been renamed to Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Secure Score in that. Okay, but it also has got Credential Guard. So, if somebody comes up with something in that there, you want more information, this is really, really good in that there, and you can go through the documentation on that as well. Okay, so we've slightly run over time, but I just want to answer some of the questions on that there. I did answer some at the very start in that there. Is it possible to get Outlook 2016 on-prem to prompt for MFA? And I have a client actually in the last week that's run into a problem on that. What they ended up doing was they logged a support ticket to get that resolved. I think there was a script run to force it in that. Okay, so basically what's happened there is multi-factor authentication has been set up, but the client is not asking for the app password. Okay. Look, will we ever be able to use phone authentication on desktop apps such as Outlook? Yeah, that's a really good question there. Um, I've done a lot of research on that their side of it. Look, I haven't seen anything that I can say, um, you know, that will happen in that there. Um, like it's one of these ones that would have made things a lot easier. I think what they're kind of saying is that you use Outlook so often that put in the app password, it makes things more secure in that so other question here, is it only part of E5? So Office 365 Threat Intelligence can be bought as a standalone, or it can be part of E5. But use the trial as well. Download the trial. How is this priced? I'm thinking of something like for us price per user. Is it true? It's through CSP. All right, in that there. As far as I know, Threat Intelligence comes in. It's not cheap. It comes in at about €6-7 per user, in that So, but I would look at the demo first of all on it and that as well. Yeah, well, look, for those type of phishing attacks, Microsoft support has told me that ATP, so Advanced Threat Protection, will not guarantee anything. But then that's like most things in that they're they're not going to say that if this is a silver bullet. Like one thing I would be very clear on this here, I'm not saying that you go out and you take the best of the best in that there and you'll never be compromised. To me, I'm just saying is here are some of the tools available. To me, multi-factor authentication is just a no-brainer. It's just a case on set it up on that there. Okay, if the user doesn't want to do it, at least you've made them aware. Yeah, so what is the minimum license needed to use? So it's part of Office 365 Threat Intelligence, looking at there. Look, I haven't tested this here. I would suspect that if you put one license on the tenant, you'd be able to use Attack Simulator. I couldn't confirm that there, so buy one license and then see if it works. You as a partner get the E3 licenses, okay? So you get say internal usage rights if you've got say the Action Pack or above and that there. I don't think, check your IURs, is there any E5s? Because I've given this feedback to Microsoft. If they want to push the higher value SKUs, they have to give the partners, it's not as if they're giving the partners as well, because you have to pay for your competencies. But instead of having AURs as the E3? Can they not make it the Microsoft 365 E5 and that there? Like, you know, but is there a quicker way to set up for exchange on part of this? Stephen, I'll take that one offline. I'm not just 100% sure what you're asking there. Is there a quicker way to set up for exchange online? Yeah, I'll take that question offline and that, okay? Because I'm not 100% sure. Okay, just want to see if there's any other questions I have missed here. Okay, so look, you have a question here on, excuse me. When it comes to choosing how you want to access the hard drive, the options aren't consistent throughout each PC. I would probably say manufacturer. I would be kind of looking at the TPM and that there. So sometimes, like from my side of it on BitLocker, I don't require a pin on startup and that. Okay, now you can enforce that yourself and that, like, you know, through MBAN policies and that as well. One thing I would say is regarding BitLocker, it is a lot easier than it was before, as in when you set up BitLocker, the end user generally couldn't work on the PC for 2 or 3 hours or more, depending on if it's solid state or, you know, what type of computer it was. Now it works in the background and that there. It actually is very, very straight up on that there. Like it is very, very simple. Okay, is there any more questions on that? I hope you found that useful. Look, there's a lot in the Microsoft security side of it and that as well, but this was just the first webinar that we wanted to do on this here. And it's great to see so many people on the webinar. The next one we'll go into it in a little bit more you know, advanced features. Now, again, as I said, we will be touching on enterprise mobility and security, and that's okay, and a few other features as well. I haven't really touched on GDPR. Okay, there is a GDPR dashboard now. You know, you can do a data service request, not there, where you can find information across SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange. Can you add the E3 license? And then yes, Graham, question you had there. Upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 10 Pro. Can you add the E3 license upgrade and then remove? Yes, yes. Very, very clear. Look, speak to Angela, speak to Nicole, whoever your account manager is on this here. Okay. Now I'm assuming it's not Windows 7 home and that there, like, you know. So, but yeah, you can upgrade and that there, and we. Put it like this here, there's even a document out there that Microsoft have saying that if you do, you know, turn off the license. Look, at the end of the day, Microsoft want users to Windows 10. Remember, there was a year where, no, it was actually longer than a year. I think it was up to Christmas where there was a workaround where you could get to Windows 10 and that there, like, you know, so, but, you know, we've had not a lot, but we've had, like, say 10 or 12 instances where people have gone to the E3 and then what they've done then is they've kind of downgraded. We've had a few people stay on it because they like the idea of device guard, credential guards, and that as well. Like, you know, so look, thank you very much for attending. I don't see any more questions. And look, if there is any questions after the fact, you've got my details. Feel free to contact me or give me a call on that there. Look, if you're taking anything out of today on that as well, is the two parts for me is multi-factor authentication. It just needs to be looked at in that there. You need to inform your customers. And I really like Attack Simulator. I really like the idea that you can simulate an attack, you know, and, you know, it's you can go in and do a presentation. You know, you'll lose an audience fairly quickly. But if you say, you know, IT is interesting to IT people, but if you say to somebody that they're, just by the way, we simulated an attack and that they're, you know, I think you get more accountability in that as well. Okay, look, thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.